Okay, so here I am with another custom action figure that I made. And if you enjoy seeing me make videos about these custom action figures, please make sure to hit the subscribe button down below and maybe even ding the little bell if you want to see more, because there are going to be more forthcoming. So this is the first one I've done in a while, a Masters of the Universe Origins custom, and this is Death Dealer. So even though it's a figure that I made in the Masters of the Universe Origins style to fit in with that line, it's not actually a Masters of the Universe character. No, this is a character that was created by the great fantasy artist Frank Frazetta, and he did quite a few paintings of Death Dealer. And I tried to capture the look of the character as best as I could, but at the same time, I also wanted him to have kind of like that old school toy sort of feel to him, since, it's an Origins figure. And here's basically everything I did to make this figure. I started off with a base figure of Skeletor, and, I basically just kind of like, I took off the head, took off all the armor and everything. I kind of trimmed up the feet a little bit. Death Dealer in the paintings has these kind of boots with the spikes on the front of them. So I left the toe at the front because I figured that would be a good way to represent that spike or the claw, whatever you want to call it. And but I cut off the ones on the side. Uh, I might trim up the soles of the boots a little bit more just because of the way they did them. If you just cut the toe off, there's like a little bit of a lip there, so I might get rid of that. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But then I just kind of painted the boot like a solid black. Really, I probably should have like kind of dry brushed some silver onto it to give it more of a metallic look, since it's supposed to be kind of an armored boot. But I kind of figured, this chainmail skirt thing is mainly going to cover it up anyway, so it's probably not that big of a deal, so I didn't really bother. If you think I should, leave me a comment and let me know if you think I should, add a little bit more of a metallic finish to that. Kind of like what I did with the breastplate here is like, I printed this breastplate out of black PLA and then just kind of heated it up and sort of formed it around the torso, because when it prints out, it's like completely flat. And if you apply some heat to it, like I used a blow dryer, uh, and same with this belt, it prints out flat. This is like a trap jaw belt, and I kind of modified the skull so it looked a little bit more like the little demon skull that's on Death Dealer's belt in some of those paintings. So I found this trap jaw belt on Cults, or I'm sorry, I found that one on Thingiverse. I found the armor on Cults. I found the shield on Cults. The shield is the only thing I think I had to pay for to get the files from, and it was only like $2. And that's not an exact duplication of Death Dealer's shield, but I think it's a good enough facsimile for this figure. This was basically where somebody had remade a Galaxy Warrior shield to go with Masters of the Universe Classics, and unfortunately, like the print kind of failed a little bit at the handle, but that's okay because, like I said, it was for Classics, so that handle was probably too big for this hand anyway. So I took another shield where the print had failed, and I cut off the clip that was supposed to go onto that one. And it doesn't fit quite as tightly onto this wrist as I would like, but it fits tightly enough. And I was able to kind of merge the whole thing together to make myself a proper Death Dealer shield. This short sword came from a weapons rack that I found on Thingiverse, where they made their own version of the Masters of the Universe Castle Grayskull weapons rack. They took some liberties, made their own designs, and they're pretty cool. But I really liked this sword, and I thought it would be a good secondary weapon for Death Dealer. Again, with the hairdryer, I was kind of able to stretch out the little hooks on the side, the little loops that are supposed to hold Trapjaw's weapons, since this was intended to be a belt for Trapjaw, and I was able to get it wide enough that it could hold this belt. I was also able to do the same thing over here, and be able to fit the bearded axe into this loop, but unfortunately, because of because of all the bulk of the armor, it just added just enough bulk that I can't really get it in there at the right angle. So I'm probably gonna have to redo that. Just hit it with the hairdryer again and kind of stretch it out a little bit more so it'll fit that. This is actually supposed to be like where somebody had made like a life size Death Dealer helmet, and I just kind of shrunk it down in the slicing process and made it small enough that it could fit over a He-Man head. And this underneath is actually a He-Man head that I took the hair off of. So so yeah, and then I kind of myself I sculpted a little bit more faceplate underneath there because you're not supposed to be able to see his face. In the paintings, Frazetta always had his face kind of covered in shadow, and that works beautifully on a painting, and it makes him look really creepy. But unfortunately, when you're making something in 3 dimensions, you don't have the option of just hiding it in shadow and having him look all mysterious. So then you wind up with all these different versions of what Death Dealer's helmet looks like. Does he have a full faceplate? Maybe it's open at the bottom, but he's got like fabric covering the lower half of his face. Maybe it's like kind of a medieval Darth Vader kind of thing. I don't know. You see different versions of it. I decided to just keep it kind of simple, and it's just a little more faceplate underneath the helmet. I did like this better than it just being just kind of a plain faceplate, though, because it gave it a little more detail. And you can see, I basically just, this whole helmet, I just kind of painted it matte black, and then just kind of dry brushed some gunmetal onto it, like the same way I did with the breastplate there. And this is just a Galaxy Warriors breastplate. That one was free on Cults. You can get the Bearded Axe for free on Thingiverse, and I think it's also on Cults. The belt was Thingiverse. So yeah, almost all these weapons and accessories I 3D printed myself. I will try when I post this video to put some links in the description so that if you guys are interested in making your own Death Dealer figure and want to use some of these ideas and some of these files, you'll be able to find them rather easily and do it yourself. Now, that having been said, after I made this helmet, when I first made this helmet, this is how long I've been working on it. Thingiverse was the only place I really knew of to find files, so I found the helmet on there and shrunk it down. When I discovered Cults, then I found there were some actual bespoke Death Dealer heads that were made to be action figure heads that were specifically supposed to fit onto Origins and Classics. And I might one day redo the head, since I can get those now and don't have to worry about, uh, having to shrink down a helmet that is made to fit on a much larger head than an action figure. But I think it worked out pretty well anyway. Some people might say the proportions are kind of chunky, but I kind of feel like, again, it fits with that old school action figure feel I was going for. I've seen like, I wasn't sure what color skin Death Dealer is supposed to have, because like, if you look at it in the paintings, it's almost kind of like this grayish mottled kind of skin color. But Frazetta does this thing where, like, a lot of the times, like, his character's flesh will reflect whatever the environment is. So I'm not sure if his skin is literally supposed to be that color or not. I have no idea. So I did see that the Mezco, I think it was Mezco, their Death Dealer figure that they're making, that one had kind of light blue flesh, and I saw that after I'd already picked out this Skeletor figure to be the base of it. So I was like, well, I'm not alone in that, at least. So this Bearded Axe, again, I found that one on Thingiverse. That's a free file. You can get that one for free. This is actually, most of the stuff on him, like, this is, like I said, a custom trap jaw belt, like their own design of a trap jaw belt, and this is their own design of a Castle Grayskull weapons rack sword. But the Bearded Axe and the armor and the shield, like I said, those are all kind of based off of Galaxy Warrior designs. And Galaxy Warriors was, a He-Man knockoff action figure line that took a lot of influence, i.e. just blatantly copied the artwork of Frank Frazetta. And they did a lot of character heads that were based off of his artwork. Like, one of them looks kind of like his version of John Carter, and one of them looks kind of like the Frost Giants from his Frost Giants daughter painting, and God, what was one of the other? There were quite a few that looked like Frazetta characters, and quite a few that were original designs, and quite a few that were, stolen from other science fiction artists. But it was mostly a Frazetta inspired line, and even though they didn't have a figure that seemed to me to be based off of Death Dealer, they didn't have a head sculpt that looked anything like this. Probably a little elaborate for the molding process that they had at the time. Uh, they did very much copy the bearded axe like Death Dealer had, but theirs, rather than having a curved handle like Frazetta'S did, they had a straight handle. But again, I was able to use a hairdryer and soften it up just enough that I could kind of warp it. Now, technically, Frazetta'S is just supposed to be like just one curve to the handle, but I kind of curved it back the other way here just because of the shape of the bearded axe wasn't quite as downswept as how Frazetta drew it. So I wanted the axe blade to be more sort of parallel with the axe handle, if that makes any sense, even with the curve. I wanted it to be, to me, this seemed like a more, how do you put it? This seemed like a more practical angle to have the axe head at than what it would have been otherwise, and probably closer in spirit to how Frazetta painted it than how it was actually executed, if that makes any sense. So then the last thing I did, and I just put this off for the longest time, and that's why it took me so long to actually finish this figure, is I had to sew these soft goods. You see like the long chainmail skirt and the kind of furry cape, which I used some velvety material for the cape because I felt like that would give it kind of a furry sort of quality. I thought that would look really cool. And then I found this sort of it's stretchy, kind of spandexy type material, but it's got like this sort of foil printing on it, so it gives it like a chainmail sort of look. I don't know if it even comes across that well on the monitor. It almost kind of, to me, looking at it on the monitor, looks kind of almost more like a sort of like a silver vinyl kind of thing. But if you looked at it in person, and I think it comes through in some of the pictures, it gives it like a chainmail sort of look, which I really like. Now, technically, I think this is just supposed to be like a plain fabric or kind of a suede leather sort of tunic over the top part of it. But I was already having to sew so much stuff. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna make him like a chainmail robe kind of thing, and that's gonna be good enough. The wonderful thing about making a figure of Death Dealer is that Frazetta himself didn't exactly make him like wearing the same exact costume every single time. He had like variations of his own. So I felt like that gave me the license to take my own sort of liberties with the character. And it's something that you look at him and you instantly recognize him as Death Dealer, but it does have like a lot of my own little flourishes that I put onto it. But like to me, it was the most important thing was he had to have the helmet, he had to have the bearded axe, he had to have the demon skull on his belt buckle, he had to have this long chainmail skirt that you all often see kind of flowing up in the paintings and everything. It looks really dramatic. And other than that, I kind of felt like I could just do whatever I wanted to with him. I did try to get a shield that looked at least somewhat like the shield that he has in the paintings. It's obviously not an exact match if you compare it with especially if you look at the first Death Dealer painting, his shield is really prominent on there. But I kind of feel like I got it close enough that it works for being Death Dealer's shield. And you can see that like I kind of painted the whole thing again in like a matte black, and then like rather than dry brushing it on this time, I went with like a few full coats of gunmetal to give it that kind of like it's just a bare metal shield, and he just kind of painted the falcon onto it, or condor, or whatever it's supposed to be. I'm pretty sure in this one it's just supposed to be like an eagle or a falcon, but I think it turned out really cool. Like I said, this is a file that I got off of Cults, but I did modify a little bit because when I went to slice it, I turned off the thing where it resizes everything evenly, so I could just resize it lengthwise here. because he had quite a longer shield than this actually was. So I was able to rescale it and get it, I think, a lot closer in terms of the proportions to what Death Dealer's shield actually was in the painting. So, like I said, it's not 100% match, and like I wasn't really even going for it being 100% match, but it was one that when I saw it, I figured this design of a shield is obviously really close to how Frazetta often painted shields, and it was definitely a Frazetta shield, if not 100% a Death Dealer shield, but I thought it worked out really well with that. It's kind of cool, like I said, that Galaxy Warriors had some of the stuff in there already that I could use as far as, making my own Death Dealer, even though they didn't actually make a Death Dealer figure. It's probably not cool that they ripped off Frazetta so much, and he probably deserved a little bit of a cut. But, they made those figures 40 years ago, so I'm not gonna... I think the statute of limitations is up by now, so I think those are probably public domain now. People, can make whatever kind of Galaxy Warrior stuff they want. So I'd be more worried about the Frazetta state suing me than Sun Gold at this point. I don't even know if that's a company that even exists anymore. So yeah, but you can the skirt has like a little bit of a posability to it, so I can kind of get it to have that sort of upswept look to it, but mainly I just kind of have it draped around his legs. So I'm really happy with how this figure turned out. I'm very satisfied with it. For years, I've wanted to have a Death Dealer figure to fit in with, even going back so far as to classics. Like, I really wanted to have, like, a classics version of Death Dealer, and I hoped that, maybe Mattel might wind up getting the rights to do Death Dealer, and that might be really cool. And after Super 7 got a hold of the classics molds, maybe Super 7 will do one. It'll be, like, really expensive, but I could probably get one. And then when Origins came out, and I was able to get Skeletor figures for, a pretty decent retail price, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it myself. And I started making plans for it. And then once I got the 3D printer and was able to find some files online, that I'm like, I can finally make this Death Dealer now. And it turned out really cool. I'm really happy with it. I'm probably going to do some more Frazetta characters. Like, I really like the character of Dark Wolf from Fire and Ice. I thought that one was really cool. Might do like a Frazetta style Conan. I've got this Conan that I completely 3D printed this Conan figure, and he's really neat. So I'm probably going to wind up at some point, like taking some of the parts from this and putting them onto an Origins figure, so I can make like a really highly articulated one. This was like very much in the style of the vintage He-Man figures, and I really like it. I was really happy with how it turned out. So I'm probably going to do an Arnold Conan at some point, but I'd kind of like to do a Frazetta version too, since that one is so primal and definitive. So maybe even do a John Buscema one. That's probably my favorite version of Conan, actually, is the one from the Marvel Comics, because that was the one I first grew up with. Specifically, the black and white Savage Sword of Conan comics. Those were hardcore. I loved those. Like, I read a lot of those when I was, 13, and that's, kind of the perfect age to be reading Conan comics in general, but especially those Savage Sword comics, because those are awesome. So, anyway, again, if you enjoyed seeing this video and want to see more videos of custom action figures, please like and subscribe down below. You might even want to hit the little bell icon to notify you when I put up a new video, because I'm definitely going to do more of custom action figure videos. Those seem to get a lot more hits than anything else that I do. So I want to give you out there, the audience, my friends, I want to give you what you want, and we're going to do some more of those. I've just been kind of lazy about it. Sorry about that, but that's going to change here in the future. And also make sure to leave some comments down below and let me know what you think of these figures, and if you have any, creative criticisms or anything like that, any kind of suggestions that might make the figure better, feel free to let me know, because, I don't mind constructive criticism. I do mind the kind of criticism where somebody just will be like, that looks dumb, or something like that. That's pointless. But, if it's the sort of thing where it's like, yeah, maybe his head could be a little smaller, kind of thing. Like, I don't know. I don't really mind. Like I said, I don't really mind his head being kind of chunky because, like I said, I kind of feel like it fits in with that old school action figure vibe I was going for. And besides, it's supposed to be a helmet he's wearing over his head, so it probably should be like a little bit bigger. But I'm pretty satisfied with it. So anyway, thanks for watching. I always appreciate when people watch my videos, especially when they leave a like and a comment and all that kind of fun stuff. So thanks for giving me a little bit of your time, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.